I couldn't tell you. I've probably shot a dozen emails to scientists like, hey, share your paper.
Yeah.
Because you're at the science article website that wants you to pay $1 million, but no, just email them directly. They love sharing their work, and some of the stuff that they're doing it's all the stuff that we wish we could do.
Yeah.
I wish I had a mass spec. I wish I had time to learn how the hell to use a mass spec.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to All Beer Inside. We are finishing up our Syracuse series, and joining me is Rockney of Willow Rock Brewing Company.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you very much for hosting us today. Really
thanks for coming down. Yeah, appreciate it.
Brought me up some tasty looking beers here to try. Let's start with number one.
Absolutely,
here.
yeah. So we're going to try Congress first. This is our classic American lager. Mm-hmm. This was actually the #1 beer in Syracuse. It was brewed from 1892 to 1962.
Wow.
When the original brewery went out of business. We actually worked with our local historical association to bring it back. So it's been fun. We've had it since 2018. We did a whole thing. We came out like horse and buggy down the main street in Syracuse. It was great. So
Love it.
This is just your classic easy drinking entry beer. So awesome. Hey, cheers.
A toast. Dangerously malty for me.
Yeah. So
this
actually,
is something I would crush a bunch of these.
Yeah. This features New York State hops, New York State barley as well. So this is just really a celebration of Syracuse. It's delicious. It's that entry beer for, you get your hop heads, and then somebody wants, hey, what's a beer? There you go.
I'll be honest, as a beer drinker, a lager is where I'll judge your brewery. And these are hard to nail.
Yeah.
You nailed it.
Nice.
Recipe from the 1800s, well, early 1900s. How'd you find that?
So they didn't have the exact recipe. They had sort of like a procedural list of things that they did. So we didn't really have anything to go on in that regards. But, me and my partner Kevin, we've studied beer and brewing for a long time. And, generally we understood what a beer from that time, that pre-prohibition lager kind of thing. And we wanted to sort of update that a little bit for today's discerning palate. And we'd actually did over a year of test batching and all that, and here we are.
Fantastic. As I say, gateway beer, like you get your macro drinker. To me, drink this. It's so clean. It's nice. Like the malt bill is damn near perfect. That's the gateway beer for me. So, and like I said, I will judge a brewery on if your lager's bad, because that means you just have to mask everything with everything else. If this is good, then these are going to be good. So I'm looking forward to the rest during this interview today.
Yeah, you can't hide anything in a lager.
No, exactly. So what's the beer story, Rockney? What brought you to creating Willow Rock?
Yeah, so long story short, my partner and I, Kevin, we worked together in high school. We worked at an ice rink. I was a Zamboni driver, and I was a year older than him. I went off to college. I was like, well, I'll never see that guy again. So I'm standing outside my dorm room in my sophomore year, and he walks by, and I'm like, oh, hey guy, how you doing? And we ended up becoming roommates and drinking a lot of beer. Shocker. I graduated. I moved to the South. I was like, all right, I'm done with cold. Moved to Charlotte. And I come home for Christmas, a little after Christmas one year, and I go visit my buddy Kevin, and he's like, hey, you got to try this. I made this. I'm like, well, what is it? He's like, beer. I was like, okay. So I pop it open and I drink it. It was awful. So I go back home, and I'm working the job I got there, and I'm, in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, that's kind of cool. He made his own beer. I like making stuff. So I found a local homebrew shop, and I started, falling into that obsession. And this was probably 2008, 2009, somewhere around there. And then, they don't tell you about the South. It's always sunny there. Mm-hmm. That's not fun. So I wanted to come back. So we moved back home, and Kevin and I started brewing in earnest. It was, 1 weekend at his house, 1 weekend at my house, and away we went. We ended up getting serious about it. We flew out to Colorado. We purchased a 3-barrel system at that time. And Kevin went to the Siebel Institute of Brewing Technology, and I started writing business plans. Woo-hoo! Okay. And away we went. It took us, surprisingly to me, I thought the easy thing would be finding a building. But it actually took us a little over 3 years. Yeah. But the building we're in right now is the building we started in. We didn't do anything in this building. It was perfect. Just took me a really long time to find.
Don't touch the electrical stuff, and don't touch this, and stay in this area and everything. But
it's gone through various levels of industrial box.
Yeah.
But I think at the point that it is now, it is the the most aesthetically pleasing.
When you found this place, you're like, I see this is where it is. This is where it has to be.
Well, it was funny. So, I like I said, we looked for 3 years. I think I looked at every building in Syracuse. So I was looking, my real estate agent calls me up and he says, hey, I got the perfect building for you. It was one road over, a little tiny road right over here. And we look at it, it's terrible. Like, it doesn't have a floor drain, it doesn't have anything we need. Yeah. So I called my dad, I'm like, Pops, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't have the money to build my own building. I've looked at every building in Syracuse. I'm over here on Ball Circle. I don't know. And my dad just goes, oh, I know the perfect building. Go one street over. I'm like, Dad, I asked you 4 years ago. So the front of our building has one of those like little really tiny like school classroom windows. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so I literally came over, peeked my face in the little window and said, it's perfect. And away it went.
Yeah. So I guess the real estate agent wasn't thinking about this.
To be fair, it wasn't on the market.
Oh,
so,
okay.
It's the guy that owned it wasn't using it for anything, but he was a little too lazy to put it on the market.
Yeah. So, I love to go. Every brewery is a little different everywhere, I find.
Yeah.
I was in Queens back in November 2019. It's like I'm in what feels like some guy's basement drinking a beer. Now I'm in a big brewery, and now I'm in what looks like a greenhouse. It's the uniqueness of every brewery is so awesome, I find.
It is. So I started drinking that kind of early 2000s was my entry to craft beer. And yeah, at that point, like every brewery was close. Yeah. You know what I mean? There wasn't anything. And now you don't know where, like you pull into a neighborhood, like where am I? Oh, it's this house. Cool. Okay. And then you still have the giant, these, palaces to beer and, and everything in between. It's a lot of fun.
I do find that's a lot more unique to America than it is versus Quebec where we live is your local neighborhood brewery could feel like your local neighborhood kind of pub.
Yeah.
And it's not as frequent where we live because the local neighborhood bar has kind of disappeared in Canada, where they still exist in the States. I was in Cleveland, a few years ago, and this looks like a guy's house.
Cleveland's kind of cheating.
Here.
I mean, like that's, if you're looking for neighborhood bars in America, like Cleveland might be the capital of it.
Yeah.
So like you may have a bit of a overwhelmed opinion on that one, but I think you're right. The neighborhood bar, even here in Syracuse, I've lived here not all of my life, but most of it. You see it fade away.
Yeah.
And I think where we've watched breweries pick up that slack are places where, municipalities and governments and states have been amenable to letting it happen. We were real lucky in New York. We've had a lot of great laws, including our farm brewery law, not to get too boring here, but it has just proliferated the growth of breweries, and it's really, really helpful if you can have something on your, behind you like that.
I mean, I see it alone. Last time I was in Syracuse was probably about 10 years ago, and it was just a stop through because we're like, oh, we got drunk at football. Yeah. We had a designated driver. We're going to stop at Syracuse to sober up before we go back to Montreal the next day.
Yeah.
I wasn't as big into craft beer 10 years ago as I am now, but it's like, oh my God, there's so many craft breweries in Syracuse.
Yeah, probably 2 at that point. Yeah, now we're up to 22 in the county.
That's amazing.
It's great. I love it.
It sounds like the city of Syracuse and I'm assuming most government people are backing you guys because they see it as tax revenue.
Yeah.
For sure. So
yeah, New York's been a great state for the growth. We have a great the Brewers Association for the state's a phenomenal ally to all breweries in the state. So we've been really lucky. Yeah. We really have.
I mean, we're coming off the New York Craft Brewers Festival, and we were speaking with Andrew.
Well, there you go.
We were speaking with Andrew from Talking Cursive, and he's like, no, like, these guys know. They want us all to succeed.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. And there's a lot of breweries from Catskills to the Finger Lakes to pretty much it felt like mostly anything I could hit within an hour and a half, 2 hours was at that festival. And that was over 50 breweries.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It's great. Yeah, there's over 400 now in New York.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
I know I have the New York State app, and that's what helped me discover you guys was that.
Yeah.
How do you find that is that app and Untappd and things like that? Beer geeks like myself discovering you guys out of, what do you mean you're from Montreal? What do you mean you're from Toronto? Like, we never expected you guys to walk into our brewery.
Yeah, so that was something that, in the first few years that we were open, just always was amazing to me. Because, back in the day, we had paper maps. Like you're like, oh, yep. That's a new dot on the map, I think. Oh, so I have a funny story about that. Down in Cortland, Cortland Brewery was opening, but they weren't open yet. So we were down in that region for something. I don't remember what, but we're driving back, and I got my map. I'm the passenger in the car, so I'm looking at the map. Like, is there any breweries we can go to? And Cortland Brewery. I'm like, oh my God, we're coming up on Cortland. Let's go check it out. So I call the phone number, and a guy picks up. hello? I'm like, oh, hi, is this Cortland Brewing Company? He's like, no, this is my cell phone. Okay, well, thanks. Have a good. Hey, wait, where'd you get this number? I got it in the Brewing News or something like that. And he's like, oh, well, we're not open yet. And I was like, oh, okay. Have a good night. So whatever, no big deal. So we drive into Cortland. We're like, let's at least find a place to get a beer. So we're driving down this side street, and I just kind of turn over and I look, and there is definitely a brewery right there, and I see it. I'm like, stop the car. There's a brewery right there. Yeah. So we get out and we walk in, and sure enough, it's a brewery. There's a big garage door open. There's a bunch of shiny tanks. Life is good. So I walk in the door, and there's 7 or 8 people around chilling, having a beer. I'm like, we did it. We found it. And I walk in, and I'm like, hey. And the guy goes, did you call me on my cell phone? And I was like, I did. Sorry. I thought you weren't open. And he's like, we're not. I was actually crashing his family pre-opening, but he was great. He let us come in. We tried some beers. Great guy. Great beer. That was my funny. I have a beer map.
How did you guys pivot during the pandemic?
Yeah, it was crazy. I'm sure this is a story common to every brewery out there. But it was scary. You basically, we're a taproom and a brewery. Yeah. We do a little bit of distro, but even that was shut down. So we basically went from, okay, we have a revenue stream to we don't have a revenue stream. And, that's what keeps a business going. So we were lucky. We'd wrapped up a expansion at the end of 2018. And in mid-2019, we had commissioned a new canning line. So we were actually able to pivot to a full on, everything goes in cans. Yeah. I'll deliver it to your house. I don't care. So yeah, we were out in our cars driving around every day, just doing our best to move whatever beer we could to keep the lights on. Yeah. We were lucky enough, we furloughed our staff for a little while, not actually really even all that long, but we had them in here packing beers, packing orders, and we didn't have to let anyone go. So we got really lucky in that regard. And, that's a testament to the huge support we got from Syracuse and the surrounding areas and all of our big fans. Because, it was a scary time. But it was a good time for a beer. You know what I mean? So, how do you bridge the, I can't go get a beer, but I want a beer. And, us and all the other breweries around, we were out there hustling and driving around and making it happen, which is, it was great. It was a pleasure to do for the people that supported us. And thank goodness it's over.
I mean, if there's anything to do when the pandemic was at its highest, was just drink at home. So if I could get the beer I already enjoy at home, even delivered to me, or where I live, it was just pick up only, but it was pull up, pop my trunk, show my QR code delivery.
Yeah, we had a lot of that too.
And I'm constantly my mother doesn't drink craft beer, but I do. So Mom, go buy a gift card. Yeah. Or go buy me a t-shirt. Even though I have 1,000 beer t-shirts, buy me something. Buy me something from that brewery to keep those guys open, because I want guys like you to succeed and be successful. And I know your margins are probably razor thin, especially during the prime pandemic, but it's nice that a lot of you guys survived. And
and that was it. Our pivot to can, we understood that our margins were going to go bottoms up, and we lost a lot of money during it. We had a lot of plans. We were actually about to finish an expansion, to expand to a second location at the time. But, we had heard about this weird disease happening over on the other side of the world. So we were like, well, wait a minute. And good thing we did. But, everything we had sort of socked away to try to, make that dream a reality went to just staying open. So it kind of just, hit the reset on the 5-year plan. But, it was that huge support from Syracuse that really got us through.
All right, so let's enjoy another beer here.
Sure. So this is Mr. Zero. It is our flagship hazy, 6.2%. It uses Citra and Apollo, which I think is a combo. Not a lot of people use Apollo. Obviously, everyone's heard of Citra. But it is just a wonderful combo to me. You get that huge citrus nose, but the Apollo comes in and it's a little bit more dank and just really balances it super nicely.
Yeah. As we do. A toast. Oh, yummy. Yummy, yummy, yummy.
So it's just lush and full and flavorsome.
It's funny, you mentioned Apollo and lush, and we were lucky enough to interview Frost Beer Works in Vermont. Yeah. And a brewery in the Muskokas in Ontario called Catalyst, and their brewery dog's named Apollo.
Ah, that's great.
It's like that kind of, you mentioned we're 160 something episodes in now. Eventually everything's going to come together. So
that's how it works. Yeah, so this
super light, nice crush. 5-ish%?
6.2.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
A little sneaky.
Yeah.
A little sneaky.
That'll sneak up on you.
Yeah.
That's I'm not a big I do enjoy hop bombs, but I don't. But this is not even close to like a hop bomb.
It's infinitely sessionable, and that, we wanted. You see a lot of the New Englands, especially, get up there to that 8.5%, 9%, and I'm like, all right, I want to dial it back from there. And I have my roots, like I said, in that sort of early 2000s craft beer scene, and that was like the IBU wars, like how bitter can it be? And thankfully that kind of went away, but I think before that we saw a lot of sort of nuanced East Coast IPA. It was really before Heady Topper was even a thing, and I retained some of that, and all the West Coast IPA offerings were amazing. That was you got your hands on an Avery IPA or something. That was the end of the world.
Yeah.
But my goal when we first opened was to sort of create an IPA that was a marriage of that, and whereas that beer is sort of gone away to time. It sort of split off in two ways, and Mr. Zero was one direction, and our flagship West Coast was the other. This has been a beer. It was going to be a one-off. It was one of those things like, I'll make it. It's fun. It's great. And then
people
everyone's
are coming
like,
just crushing it.
yeah, which normally you don't do that because it's like, yes, you love it and I love it. Who's going to drink the other 2,000 pints? But this is one of the ones that proved, to have a great level of support, and we've had it ever since.
I mean, I find this whole kind of, let's say from Grand Rapids to the Maritimes of Canada, and then you're cutting around to Maine and all these states we're spoiled for beer. There's so much good beer. I mean, just in this area alone, we've spoken with you, we spoke with Buried Acorn, we spoke with Dr. Cursive, we were hanging out at Middle Ages. It's just, there's good beer almost everywhere you go. So, maybe a small little desert town in Nevada, you're not going to find a crazy beer. But you go to Vegas, and their craft beers are just exploding.
I remember it used to be like, all right, I'm taking a trip. Let's see if there's a brewery somewhere on the path. And now it's like, all right, I'm taking a trip. How many breweries do I have time to stop at? Because it doesn't matter where you're going. You're going to hit one. So a quick funny story about that is I was on vacation with my in-laws and my wife and kid. We were in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, which is kind of middle of nowhere. It's a small town. Gorgeous scenery.
That's an Amish town, isn't it? Or it's near an Amish town?
Almost all of Pennsylvania is near one, so I'm just going to say yes. Anyway, so I'm there, and there's actually there used to be a brewery in Jim Thorpe. It's not open anymore. So I'm like, I've done the family thing. I would like a brewery. And so I Google on my phone, all right, where's the closest brewery? There's one 25, 30 minutes down the road in Tamaqua, Pennsylvania. So I'm like, cool. I'm going to hop in my car and go. They open it, I don't know, it was like 4 o'clock or whatever. So I hop in my car and I go and I drive the half hour or whatever. And I pull in. It's like little tiny strip mall, little tiny place. I walk in. The guy's super nice. He's got a little 3-barrel stout system. So we start talking over that. I'm sitting there trying some beers. And in walks an honest to God coal miner, covered in coal, soot, everything, he had goggles on, so that's the only thing that's skin colored anymore. And and he sits down, and we are just loving this beer together. So coming to find out, right behind the place is the go home road from the coal mine. So what a cool experience. But 10 years ago, this place didn't have a brewery. Let's be real. But it was great. Yeah. So that was my my coal miner, and he wasn't. A bunch of them came in, and we all talked about all the beers and stuff. It was a good time.
Yeah, no, to me, anybody can enjoy craft beer. There's no question about it.
Oh, yeah.
I've said time and time again, and I know I sound like a broken record, support local businesses.
Yeah.
Except when maybe your TV or your PlayStation, but support local businesses. So.
Yeah.
And I'm sure
Beer's
you guys
everywhere.
do too when it comes to your malts and your hops and your wheats and all your ingredients. You probably try and get as much New York local as you can.
Yeah, New York has weathered a few storms when it comes to hops and malt availability. But it's in a really good place, and the quality is constantly improving. There's times where we absolutely prefer the New York product versus the German, the English, the whatever product.
Yeah.
We celebrate that because that is local, and that's really a lot of what the legislation around the New York State Farm Brewery was built around. Was building the agricultural base to build the retail base, and it's worked.
Plus with the agriculture, I'm sure you got farmers coming in, picking up at your spent grain.
Absolutely, yeah. It goes to a local pig farmer. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's all that great local circle that people are only starting to realize, unfortunately, because of what happened almost 3 years ago, is that people are like finally trying to shift. And myself, I've been
Made you
drinking
look
craft beer
what's in
for
your
15
backyard.
years, so
You
should have always been doing that.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, speaking with meaderies, it's, we're getting a lot of bee loss. I'm like, oh, that's not good on a worldwide scale, let alone for you guys who need honey and, just honey makers in general, just losing all that. It's not good. We gotta shift that, and we need to start supporting more local, and we gotta be a little more agricultural active.
Hive collapse is a serious concern.
Yeah.
It really is.
It's scary.
That and the theft of bees.
Yeah.
It's a real thing.
No, it was funny because the company I worked for, we were downtown Montreal, and I saw like the rooftop bee guy at like this huge event space. I'm like, we need more of those.
Yeah.
Where is that?
Yeah, so when there was a business that used to be across the way, it was a tile and flooring company. It's actually the people that own this building.
So the Mosaic, Terra...
Correct. Terrazzo
Okay.
and Mosaic Company. Yeah, so they're not around anymore, but one of their guys was a beekeeper. So we have a pretty deep property, and in the way back, there's like a little lush, grassy area. He had 4 bee hives back there. So what's amazing to me, and they're not there anymore, but you could still go back there, and there are more random stuff just growing back there, lush and vibrant, just because he kept bees back there. But yeah, how many local beekeepers do you know? And this is a pretty good area for it. I think I know 2. You know what I mean? So it's
like this kind of like, I would say like, roughly around Syracuse, Albany, when you follow the line Syracuse, Albany and above, it's great beekeeping territory when you think about it. I mean, the winters kind of suck, but that's for all of us.
Everybody's got to take a nap, man.
Yeah, for sure. We gotta turn things around if we want to keep this planet going. I have a niece and nephew. I personally don't have any kids. You have a child. I'm sure you would like to be a grandparent at some point, and like your grandchild to have a planet to live on. So
a planet would be good.
Yeah.
Ideally.
Yeah. We don't want to run off to Mars or whatever, Kepler 18 or whatever, so many...
No, man, nobody knows what the barley's like there. I'm
out. So we were mentioning vacations before. I'm sure you're very busy. Yeah, like incredibly so where...
How do you know?
Let's say 2 weeks...
What, have you talked to other brewers before?
Yeah, let's say there's a miracle of... I actually got laughed in my face when I said, if time opens up. 2 weeks magically opens up, you could take a 2-week vacation. Your co-partner, Kevin, he's like, no, I got it. Dude, go away. If you could take that beercation you've ever taken, where are you going?
I'm awash in just the thought of it, because, as a brewer of 7 years now, I'm like, could that ever even be a possibility? But, I have always wanted to go through Belgium and Flanders. Some of the, when I lived in Buffalo, when I really, really got heavy into craft beer, and there was a Belgian bar that unfortunately isn't there anymore called the Blue Monk. And they were getting Belgian beer that you couldn't get anywhere else. And it was, I had my first Huzas, I had wonderful Trappist beers. I just had things and flavors that I didn't know could exist in beer. And I think we all, regardless of what we're doing, but even in beer, I think we all try to sort of chase those fond and warm memories of our past, and I would love to be able to do that there. And that would be my beer vacation.
I'm sure you find in the stores here too, as I do in Quebec, it's like the Fontaines that come out once a year. It's like, oh yeah, I'm buying that, and you mentioned the Belgians, and I always joke around that I look like a monk, why I'm not drinking like a monk.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, the Trappist style, there's not many abbeys in the U.S. either, from what I understand anymore. I think there's one in... Oh, there's none left.
No, it just closed.
So
Yeah,
that's unfortunate. And I don't think there's any in Canada either. Why is that style? I know the IPA is the big boy for craft beer right now, but real craft beer drinkers, in my opinion, should be trying everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So. And it was a heartache to see the last 2 Saint Archer. Am I getting that right? I'm probably getting that
Saint
wrong.
Arnaud? Something.
Yeah, something. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? And look, maybe I'm part of the problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, it's hard to watch that go, because that was such a huge part of that early craft beer movement, especially in America. Showcasing all these flavors that we could have, and yeah, I don't think that time has moved by, because time couldn't possibly move by great beer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I bet Chimay doesn't smell as much here anymore either.
Yeah.
So, or Unibrew.
Yeah,
from
that's
Canada.
true.
So
yeah, because I mean, even like our old school kind of Belgian maker there, Cheval Blanc, they got bought by Unibrew, but we still have Cheval Blanc downtown Montreal. And I think they're like number 2 of the craft brewers license in Quebec.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I remember a bottle of Le Forêt was one of like my first ever beers.
Yeah, that was one of mine too, because you have macro friend drinkers who are like, "Oh no, this beer mud's it. It's 9%. It's going to be gross." And I drink it. I'm like, "It's amazing."
Yeah.
All my friends are stupid. So I mean, I shouldn't have said that, but like my palate just
it's okay.
Exploded,
They know.
So
Yeah.
Cool. And now thankfully most of those guys are drinking craft beer. There's
That's right.
very I predominantly hang out with craft beer drinkers. It's
hard to avoid us.
Yeah.
We're everywhere.
It's so simple to do because it's like, let's get together. I got this crazy 14% barley wine. Oh, I got a 17% stout, whatever. Like, so there's no question.
I got this crazy 6% sour right now.
So let's talk about this.
So this is a strawberry peach sour, kettle sour.
That nose.
Just explodes with aroma. This is not like a smoothie beer by any stretch of the imagination. If it's chunky, I ain't doing that.
Yeah.
I understand that people love that. That's not a game I play. But it is just a phenomenal, heavily fruited sour.
Awesome. Toast. You said this is a sour?
Mm-hmm.
It does not taste like a sour. It tastes like delicious juice.
So it's a kettle sour. So it's it finishes at about 3.5 pH. So it's realistically, with all that fruit added in, it's more tart than it is actually sour. But yeah, they blend together great. Finishes with that nice sort of soft, weedy body. Mm-hmm. It's a series we've had around for a while. We generally fruit it differently from time to time. But we found that the strawberry peach combo is one of the best, so we come back to that pretty regularly.
So you mentioned your partner, Kevin, went to the Sabelle Institute in Chicago.
Yep.
Have you ever thought, because you started home brewing, but you're also brewing, have you ever thought about doing the schooling or just like, no, I'm good? Kevin's got the technical stuff.
No, I'm a book nerd.
Okay.
So I have read de Klerk, I've read everything. Just absolutely any book that has been written on brewing, I've probably read it. And there are some bad books out there.
Yeah.
And there are some great books out there. But what has struck me is in the last about 5 or 6 years, there is incredible high-level research being done in barley and hops. And these scientists love to share their work.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you, I've probably shot a dozen emails to scientists like, hey, share your paper.
Yeah.
Because, you're at the science article website that wants you to pay $1 million, but no, just email them directly. They love sharing their work. And some of the stuff that they're doing it's all the stuff that we wish we could do.
Yeah.
I wish I had a mass spec. I wish I had, time to learn how the hell to use a mass spec. But I don't. So, but they do. And that's their passion is finding out these really intricate, one scientist, I forget her name and I feel really bad. She's Belgian. And she's been working on thiol and hop interaction through different yeast strains. It's super fun. Like, this is great. This is what the cutting edge of beer is finding and learning about. And here is all of her science to back it up. So it's been a lot of fun. But yeah, there's so much out there that, it's like anything else. If you wanted to be a doctor, like, yes, you could read every doctorate anatomy book. I don't know, not a doctor.
Yeah.
But, there isn't a substitution for clinical studies and clinical trials and being in the OR or whatever doctors do. So, like, that's what I liken it to now. Like, we're really coming to the point where beer has been so accepted and widespread now that there's actual scientific research going into it, and that's good.
To me, there's still got to be a more of a shift of when a consumer side, there's got to be more of a shift towards local craft. Personally, the growth is slowly happening, but to me, it should be bigger. So it should be, 13, 14% of beer drinkers are craft beer drinkers? It's not a high number, and it should be a lot higher.
No, and look, it should be. But that 13 or 14% represents multiple billions of dollars.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at that, when you look at the fact, the county we're in, Onondaga County, supports 22 breweries. That's at least 22 households that are supported by local craft beer.
Yeah.
And there isn't a substitution for that. That is consumer gratitude at its best. And do we have a long way we could go? Absolutely. There's still a Budweiser factory 15 miles down the road. But I think that the growth of craft beer isn't done. I don't think it's ever going to stop growing because there's more and more and more ways to interpret. I always say that beer is science and art, and there's no permutation that hasn't that exists twice.
Yeah.
So outside of me making my beer, I could give you all the ingredients and recipes and all the whatever could be there with you, and it would come out a different beer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there is nothing that is ever going to be repeated. So, beer is meant to be enjoyed in this moment, and we'll continue to enjoy that moment until the end of time.
I mean, that's my opinion on craft beverages in general, craft adult beverages in general, and now there's guys like yourselves. I don't know if you're doing them, but craft sodas as well. It's let's bring a guy who wants to bring his kid in, and dad wants to drink a beer, but the kid wants to drink something that looks like a beer. Oh, here's the soda I make in my shop. And so there's always opportunity for you to grow. And like, what's next is, we'll start doing craft sodas. The seltzer train too. People are making craft seltzers as well. There's always that room for growth for you guys, I feel, without, I hate to say it, but I tried the White Claws and I'm like, it tastes like chemical.
Yeah. Yeah. So we, I don't make craft sodas, but we do make our own seltzer line. And that was it. We wanted, when 20 people come in the door, there might be 10 hardcore craft beer drinkers, 5 whatevers, and a couple people that are like, I want a seltzer or a wine or whatever. And at Willow Rock, we've always wanted to just be a place everyone can be comfortable. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter who you are or what you like or whatever. And so we make seltzers and we have wine and we have all this stuff so that we can, really be available to anybody that comes in our door. And, I found when I was trying all of these seltzers, all these big names and all the ones everyone knows about, they weren't very good.
No.
I drank them and I was like, sure, it says mango on the can. I guess my mouth tastes like mango, but I didn't like any of that. Like I didn't enjoy any of that. And so much of craft beer and craft beverages is, it should be fun. Mm-hmm. You should be sitting down and enjoying yourself. And if you're not, you need something else. So that's what drove me. And, we were a little late to the seltzer game, whatever. So we were like 6 months late to the giant seltzer boom. I didn't really care about that. Would have been great to be out earlier, I guess. But I think my product's good. Mm-hmm. Like I'll sit down in the summer and I'll actually have one. You know what I mean? So like that says it all to me. is that like there are times when I prefer one. Yeah. And that's what drove me to make a seltzer. And I think it makes you look at the craft NA movement right now. Mm-hmm. NA beer has been like the wicked afterthought of macro producers for forever now, But now you're starting to get, some big, athletic partake, some really big investment in the craft NA scene, and some of them are approaching okay. We're going to go to a place where there's probably a decent NA alternative. That's cool.
Now, we got a friend. He was brewing at one of the local Montreals, and he's shifting to his own company where he's making craft sodas and craft NAs. And I know from just drinking his beers, I'm pretty sure I'm going to drink his craft non-alcoholics. And I loved his craft cream soda. So I know it's there, and it's the way I see it is, I'm spending a little more, but I'm enjoying myself. I'm not drinking, yellow number 12 that causes cancer. No, I'm drinking like an actual good real sugar, real raw sugar, not some crap that's mass produced. But once again, mass produced for certain things has to happen realistically.
And that's it. We all get to choose what we imbibe. And at the end of the day, we make that decision with our dollars.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're willing to support local and willing to support the person that's, trying to make a unique product in the face of Coca-Cola or Budweiser, you know what I mean? So that's important. Mm-hmm. And that's what celebrates local, your community, or, you know, anywhere else you go. You know, like if you're taking a trip somewhere, support there. Yeah. Don't just buy a 6-pack of Bud or whatever. Don't buy a 6-pack of Coke. See what you can find.
Yeah. Willow Rock's a pretty unique name. Where's the brewery name came from? Why is it called Willow Rock and not anything else?
Yeah, sure. So Willow Rock, it was actually like an 11th hour shift. So for a long time, Kevin and I, we were going to open Half in the Bag Brewery. But like I said, you know, this was a process that took a while. Yeah. You know, I wrote our first business plan in 2008, and we opened in 2015. So, you know, in those 7 years, kind of that joke may have lost some of its luster. You know, do you really want to open a place called Half in the Bag? What is that promoting?
Alcoholism.
Right. So yeah. So we, you know, we got to the point where we're like, all right, I don't think that can be the name anymore. So it was a lot of beers and a lot of, you know, his last name is Williams and I'm Rockney. So it was like sort of a bad mashup of our names. But yeah, that's where it came from. You know, it evokes that sort of natural nature thing, which is cool. So yeah, Willow Rock.
What's this last beer we're having?
So our last beer today, this is a fun little beer. There you go. It is called Peanut Butter Chocolate Milkshake. We come out with this semi-annually, maybe once or twice a year. It's the only dessert stout we make, but it is filled with, there's a local chocolatier called Nostalgia Chocolate. And I'm a bit of a chocolate snob, okay? And he makes and roasts some of the best chocolate around. And showcasing it in this beer is an absolute privilege. And yes, as I can tell, it's explosive in its chocolate and peanut butter aroma. And then, you know, it's layered on this nice sweet dessert stout. It's so good.
Oh,
this is actually on nitro.
A toast? So, you know, this is where I would be half in the bag because I'd be drinking these all the time.
Yeah, so the only issue with this is that it's 9%. So.
Yep, half in the bag.
Yep. So, yes, there you go.
Wow. Holy.
But it's great. That chocolate just lingers and lingers on your palate. You get some of that peanut butter, but it's not overwhelming.
I'm getting like chocolate on the sides and peanut butter like right in the middle, like around, I think it's called the umami area. Like that's, it's hitting my palate in every of the right places.
And it's a big chocolate peanut butter hug.
Yeah.
For your tongue.
This is, wow. Wow. Also, names like Mr. Zero and the other names you have for your beers, is that kind of you and Kevin get together, throw darts at the board, or is there some sort of planning out of how you name your beers?
You know, I have to say that all of that has been mostly Kevin.
Okay.
A lot of our beers are references to things I don't understand. So like I'll make the beer and he'll be like, here's a cool Simpsons episode I saw. Okay, sure. I don't think anything we have here in the little lineup up front does that. You know, we have Breakout, that's our blonde ale. That has, you can see it's got a little hockey rink on it, so that, you know, like a breakout pass, getting out of the zone. Jim is kind of our riff on like everybody knows a Jim. But it's Jim, Brown Ale.
Okay.
Jim Brown.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe if you...
That works.
I think there's some people out in the world named Jim Brown that may have some sort of local affiliation. I'm not sure. I don't really want to dig too deep into that, but yeah, Jim.
Nothing about football or anything in the Syracuse
Jim,
area.
Brown Ale, lacrosse, good player. Yeah. And then brunch. That's our breakfast coffee style. We use locally roasted coffee, all that. We actually use locally tapped and boiled syrup as well. So we'll have to try one of those, see if it lives up to that Canadian maple syrup.
I'm a bit of a maple snob, and now like the last 2 years in where I live in Quebec, the Cabana Sucre or the sugar shacks were kind of shut down. So now things are reopened again. I'm going to be eating bad food for a full day, and hopefully going to a local brewery or a vineyard or a cinery.
So what's your preference? Light, dark? What do you? So I know the U.S. has a weird grading system. So like, what do you? How do you like your syrup?
So our syrup is lighter and a little thinner. We actually have a friend who lives in Cleveland, who's a fellow podcaster, and he said, "Sorry, American Vermont maple syrup, Canada wins." And I'm like, "Thank you, we win."
So I absolutely agree. But I think New York makes better maple syrup than Vermont. Actually, the majority of maple syrup in the Northeast is from New York.
Okay, so we'll have to get them.
So you got to come back down during New York State Fair time.
Yeah,
we do a whole there. I mean, maple's a thing here, man.
Yeah.
Believe me, we do a whole maple thing. There's probably 120 different entrants to find the best New York State maple syrup.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I was in Syracuse a decade ago, and a decade ago, I'm like, I'm never coming back here. And,
well, welcome back.
Because of this week of us doing fun stuff, I'll be back in the Syracuse area. There's no question about it.
Good.
You guys have really. Maybe it's because I was in the I guess, ghetto of Syracuse at the time, but I mean, yesterday at Landmark with the beer festival and just all the food and all the everything else, and I don't even think Destiny USA existed last time I was here. Like, the mall is gigantic. It's like Syracuse is like, no, we're tired of being crapped on by the rest of New York. Let's step our stuff up.
You know, you see that in a lot of Rust Belt cities now. You know, you talked about Cleveland.
Yeah.
You know, they've been going through a resurgence. Buffalo,
Yeah.
Syracuse, Rochester. You know, you've seen a return to investment in small cities, small community, and it started to pay dividends.
Yeah.
Probably starting that 10, 15, 20 years ago, depending on where you are. And yeah, it's been great to watch.
Yeah.
You know, I lived in Buffalo for a while. Wonderful city. And, you know, it's probably 10 years ahead of the curve at Syracuse. But I see all of these cities in New York really just coming to the forefront of community-centric local support.
To me, it's feeling like, hey, you don't have to go to New York City to experience New York. You have to come to our...
I think Syracuse has some of the best food I've ever had.
Yeah.
Some of our restaurants, man.
Yeah. We got to experience the Blarney Stone, so...
Oh, so you had the best cheap burger in town, man.
Oh,
heck
awesome.
Yeah, cash
I
only.
was feeling very... Every time I've taken a trip in the U.S., I've come back a little heavier than I should to Canada.
Hey, well, dude, that's America, man.
Yeah,
Come on.
yeah, that's true.
You know the memes. Let's be real.
Yep, yeah. Clearly, you've collabed with a lot of people. If there's any you'd love to shout out, who do you love collabing with when it comes to collabs?
I won't lie. We've done 2 city-wide collaborations, and they've been my absolute favorite. So,
Okay.
like, we're talking like 14 breweries. Everybody gets in here. It's absolute insanity, but it's so much fun. You know, our goal has always been all of Syracuse. All the beer, all of it needs to sort of, you know, rising tide raises all boats. And we've done a couple of collaborations like that have been so much fun. But yeah, it's utterly amazing to me that we all came together and did those things, and we had brews in planning that are now open, and just it was a wonderful experience.
If you could collab with anybody in the future, I'm talking about anybody, who would it be?
I really think of it more like, you know, who are the people that I idolize in beer?
Mm-hmm.
So like, I would love to just sit down and talk with Scott Janisch, Mitch Steele, the Solurzos, just, you know, the people that I sort of grew up thinking like, these people do amazing things. So like, you know, Russian River, obviously.
Yeah.
Mitch Steele when he was at Stone, and he has his own brewery now. I forget the name of it. But and then, you know, Scott Janisch was just a home brewer like me when I was just a little home brewer, and now he's one of the forefront of, you know, sort of you know, cutting edge beer stuff of today. And yeah, I would just love to like sit down and geek out with these people.
It's hearing about stuff like Russian River. It's like, oh yeah, you literally have to line up for days to get Pliny.
Right.
And I still haven't tried it, and I've had friends who've tried it. You know, they've tried stuff from Russian River and some of those California breweries or Oregon areas, or breweries from places in, you know, Vermont or Maine that I've never hit, and I'm just like, you lucky bastards. Like, you know, I personally can't. It's very difficult for me to see myself in California, the state of California, for some reason that's not beer. So if I have to go, it's got to be standing in that 2-3 hour lineup just to get a bottle of Pliny to ship back to Canada.
Well,
So,
I mean, so the line's only Pliny the Younger.
Yeah.
So you can have Pliny the Elder.
Yeah.
I took a brief trip to California for my wife's 40th birthday a couple years ago, and it was stunning. We were driving from San Francisco to Yosemite, and we stopped at, you know, this, I want to say it was maybe outside of Modesto. It was this little town, but they had like one beer location.
Yeah.
But it was like a grocery store and a tap house. So whatever laws are in California, this place was dope. You could get like a sandwich and stuff to go and a pint. So like, I'm shopping, I kid you not, I'm walking around the store with a pint of Pliny the Elder, and I'm like picking out like, you know, ooh, these Takis look good.
Yeah.
Like, dude, it was amazing. So and you know, like the beers that I grew up like, this is an unattainable unicorn. We're just there.
Yeah.
Like, here's a Port Brewing Wipeout. Here, it's great.
You already mentioned you're opening a second location. I guess that's really what's next for Willow Rock.
It is what's next for Willow
Okay.
Rock. So, you know, we hope to have our second location open, oh boy, probably February, March, April, May, June, July, sometime in 2023.
Yeah.
I'm leaving myself a wide window there.
Just give yourself from now until the summer.
Anytime. Yeah. So, yeah, sometime in the future, you'll be able to come. We're doing like a sports pub concept. We're going to have all of our great beers, real accessible place. We're teaming up with some of the best local pizza. It's going to be a good time.
I look forward to the future of
Hope
Willow
you come
Rock.
down. Yeah.
I'll be back personally.
Good.
Probably not for the show, but
I talked too long. I'm done. I'm a one and
we're
done.
good.
Yeah.
For those who are looking for Willow Rock's beers and everything, where can people find you?
Yeah, so obviously here, again, always the best place, I think, is when you can come to the place that makes the beer, go to the place that can make the beer.
Yep.
But we're lucky enough to be all around Syracuse, branching out Bottle Shop. It's a premier beer store in town. You can also go down to Green Hills. They're a local independent grocer. Then we have Wegmans as well. They're the really big grocery chain in the area. Spira's is a local independent butcher on the north side. You can go there as well. And then all the better beer places around town, all the bars and stuff. So.
And for the physical location, what's your address?
We are 115 Game Road because we like to play games and have fun.
Amazing. And website, social media.
WillowRockBrew.com @WillowRockBrew.
Thank you. Once again, thank you very much for today. Really appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Anybody who's willing to take time out of their schedule to speak with us about beer, we can never thank enough. Because if it weren't for guys like you, we wouldn't exist anymore. So,
Cool. Well, hey, come drink some and let's see if he's right.
Yeah, exactly. As for us, allbeerinside.com is the website. @allbeerinside on all social media. And as I said at the end of all episodes, drink craft, not crap.